You're crumbling under pressure, choking in critical moments, and underperforming when stakes are highest, while elite performers demonstrate extraordinary mental strength, thriving under pressure and delivering peak performance when it matters most. Recognizing that pressure performance is not genetic gift or mysterious talent, but trainable mental skill, developed through systematic practices that build resilience, focus, and composure. Knowing that pressure reveals true capability where untrained minds collapse under stress, while trained minds rise to challenge, performing better, not worse, when pressure intensifies. Understanding that most people practice skills in comfortable, low-stakes environments, never training mental systems to function under pressure, ensuring inevitable collapse when high-stakes moments arrive, and losing career-defining opportunities, relationships, and achievements because mental weakness under pressure prevents you from executing capabilities you possess, making pressure performance training absolutely essential for realizing full potential and succeeding in moments that determine outcomes. This pressure weakness is systematically limiting your success by causing choking in critical moments like presentations, competitions, or high-stakes decisions, where mental collapse prevents executing well-practiced skills, creating anxiety and fear around important events, knowing you cannot trust yourself under pressure, limiting career advancement because important opportunities require performing under scrutiny and evaluation, damaging reputation as someone who cannot handle pressure, making others reluctant to trust you with high-stakes responsibilities, and ensuring decades pass achieving fraction of potential because pressure moments determine outcomes and your mental training determines whether you rise or fall, making pressure performance development critical priority. Training mind to perform under pressure is not about eliminating pressure or avoiding high-stakes situations, but about building mental systems that thrive under stress, not about suppressing emotions or becoming robotic, but about channeling pressure into enhanced performance, and not mysterious gift, but systematic training. This audiobook teaches how to train your mind to perform under pressure through 10 comprehensive frameworks, including understanding pressure psychology and arousal, building stress inoculation through exposure, developing PI performance routines, creating consistency, mastering attentional control, maintaining focus, using visualization and mental rehearsal, building confidence through preparation, developing emotional regulation under stress, creating performance cues and triggers, learning from pressure experiences, and integrating all elements into comprehensive pressure performance system, making you unshakable when stakes are highest. Stop choking under pressure and start performing at your peak when it matters most. Stop mental collapse and start mental strength. Master 10 frameworks systematically, train deliberately, and perform under pressure through unwavering commitment, starting now. Chapter 1. Understand pressure psychology and arousal. Chapter 1 understands pressure psychology and arousal, recognizing how stress affects performance and identifying optimal activation levels for peak execution. The pressure understanding shows that relationship between arousal and performance follows inverted U-curve described by Yerkes-Dodson law, where low arousal produces poor performance due to insufficient activation and focus. Moderate optimal arousal produces peak performance through ideal balance of energy and control, and excessive arousal produces deteriorating performance through anxiety, overwhelming cognitive systems. That this relationship means pressure is not inherently bad, but becomes problematic only when arousal exceeds optimal zone, creating performance anxiety and mental interference. That optimal arousal level varies by task complexity, with simple tasks benefiting from higher arousal while complex cognitive tasks requiring lower arousal for clear thinking. That individual differences mean each person has unique optimal zone, requiring self-knowledge, not generic advice, and understanding that comprehending pressure psychology through arousal theory, individual optimization, and task considerations is essential first framework for pressure performance, because understanding mechanism enables strategic management, making psychology knowledge critical foundation for building mental systems that thrive under stress rather than collapse. Understand pressure psychology and arousal. Know optimal activation levels. Learn psychology or misunderstand pressure. The Yerkes-Dodson law describes inverted U relationship between physiological or mental arousal and performance, where curve rises from left, showing that increasing arousal from very low levels improves performance through greater energy, focus, and motivation. Peaks at moderate optimal arousal, representing ideal activation level for best performance. Then declines on right side, showing that excessive arousal beyond optimal point impairs performance through anxiety, muscle tension, scattered attention, and cognitive interference. Understanding this curve reveals that goal is not eliminating arousal or pressure, but finding and maintaining optimal middle zone where you are activated enough for peak energy and focus, but not so aroused that anxiety undermines execution. Low arousal zone on left side of curve characterized by boredom, lack of motivation, insufficient energy, sluggish thinking, and poor performance occurs when stakes feel too low or you are unprepared or exhausted. Optimal arousal zone at peak of curve characterized by energized focus, clear thinking, controlled intensity, ideal challenge level, and best performance occurs when pressure activates without overwhelming you. High arousal zone on right side of curve characterized by excessive anxiety, muscle tension, racing thoughts, attentional narrowing, and declining performance occurs when pressure feels overwhelming, threatening, or unmanageable. The task complexity consideration recognizes that optimal arousal level depends significantly on what task requires. Simple, well-learned automatic tasks like running, sprinting, or routine physical activities benefit from higher arousal because increased adrenaline and activation enhance speed, power, and intensity without impairing execution of automatic movements. Complex cognitive tasks requiring concentration, decision-making, problem-solving, or precise coordination benefit from moderate to low arousal because excessive activation creates mental interference, scattered attention, and physical tension that impair nuanced performance. This explains why athletes might perform better with high-intensity music and psyching up before simple strength or sprint event, but would perform worse with same high arousal before complex skill, requiring fine motor control or strategic thinking. Match arousal management strategy to task demands. The individual differences recognition understands that optimal arousal zone varies significantly between individuals based on personality, temperament, experience, and neurological factors. Some people naturally high-strung or anxious reach excessive arousal quickly, requiring deliberate calming and regulation techniques. Other people naturally calm or underreactive need stimulation and activation to reach optimal zone. Introverts generally prefer and perform best with lower arousal levels, while extroverts prefer and perform best with high activation. Experience and familiarity with pressure situations raise optimal arousal threshold through adaptation, making situations that once felt overwhelming become manageable. Identify your personal optimal zone through analyzing past performances, noting arousal levels during best and worst performances, recognizing patterns in when you feel energized versus overwhelmed, and experimenting with different arousal management strategies. The arousal awareness develops ability to recognize current activation level, enabling real-time regulation. Arousal indicators include physical signs like heart rate, breathing rate, muscle tension, and energy level. Cognitive signs like thought speed, mental clarity, and attentional focus, and emotional signs like confidence, anxiety, excitement, or dread. Practice checking in with arousal level throughout day, and especially before, during, and after pressure situations, developing calibrated awareness of where you are on arousal curve. The reframing pressure as challenge, not threat, fundamentally changes arousal response. Challenge appraisal, where you view pressure situation as opportunity to demonstrate capability, produces moderate optimal arousal, supporting performance. Threat appraisal, where you view situation as danger to well-being, produces excessive arousal, impairing performance. Consciously reframe pressure situations from threat thoughts like I might fail, embarrass myself, or disappoint others to challenge thoughts like this is opportunity to show what I can do, test my skills, or learn and grow. Appraisal shapes arousal response. The arousal regulation strategies adjust activation level toward optimal zone. When under aroused, use activation techniques like stimulating music, physical movement, energizing self-talk, or focusing on excitement and opportunity. When over-aroused, use calming techniques like controlled breathing, progressive relaxation, or cognitive reframing. Match regulation strategy to current arousal level relative to optimal zone. The implementation requires understanding Yerkes-Dodson inverted U relationship between arousal and performance. Recognizing optimal arousal varies by task complexity. Identifying personal optimal zone through self-analysis. Developing arousal awareness through monitoring physical, cognitive, and emotional indicators. Reframing pressure as challenge, not threat. Using regulation strategies matching current state to needs. And treating pressure psychology understanding as essential foundation. Enabling strategic arousal management where ignorance about mechanism prevented effective regulation, making psychology knowledge critical first framework for pressure performance. Understand pressure psychology and arousal. Know optimal activation levels. Learn psychology or misunderstand pressure. You understand now that arousal performance follows inverted U-curve, that optimal zone is moderate activation, not zero or maximum, that task complexity affects ideal arousal, that individual differences require personalization, and that Chapter 1 provides psychology framework making informed arousal management possible where ignorance created confusion. Chapter 2 Build stress inoculation through exposure. Chapter 2 builds stress inoculation through deliberate exposure to pressure, developing tolerance, adaptation, and resilience that prevents choking. The inoculation power shows that systematic exposure to manageable stress builds tolerance exactly like vaccines expose immune system to weaken pathogens, creating resistance to full-strength disease. That gradual progressive exposure prevents overwhelming while building adaptation through starting with manageable pressure, then incrementally increasing difficulty. That practicing under pressure trains mental and physical systems to function effectively when stakes are high rather than only practicing in comfortable low-stress conditions. That avoidance of pressure situations prevents adaptation, ensuring you remain vulnerable and reactive when high-stakes moments arrive. And understanding that systematically building stress inoculation through progressive exposure, simulated pressure, and deliberate practice under stress is essential second framework for pressure performance, because exposure is only method proven to build genuine tolerance and adaptation, making inoculation training critical for transforming pressure from performance destroyer into performance enhancer. Build stress inoculation through exposure. Practice under pressure deliberately. Expose progressively or avoid fearfully. The progressive exposure increases pressure gradually through hierarchical approach, starting with mildly stressful situations, then advancing to increasingly difficult challenges, preventing overwhelm while building tolerance. Create exposure hierarchy listing pressure situations from least to most stressful, like speaking to small friendly group at bottom, presenting to colleagues in middle, and delivering high-stakes presentation to executives at top. Begin with easiest item on hierarchy, practicing until it no longer creates significant anxiety, demonstrating adaptation. Then progress to next level, continuing upward through hierarchy. Progressive approach builds confidence and tolerance systematically while attempting most difficult challenges. First often creates overwhelming anxiety and avoidance. Each successful exposure at one level prepares you for next, making progression feel achievable rather than impossible. The simulated pressure creates practice conditions that replicate high-stakes environments, enabling exposure without actual consequences. Simulation techniques include inviting observers or evaluators to practice sessions, creating social pressure, recording practices for later review, adding accountability pressure, setting artificial stakes or consequences for practice outcomes like making bet or commitment based on performance, practicing under time pressure with strict deadlines, adding physical challenges like practicing after exhausting workout, simulating fatigue, or creating competitive elements like competing against others or your previous best. Simulated pressure provides exposure benefits while allowing mistakes and learning without real-world consequences. Make practices harder than actual performances so real events feel manageable by comparison. The deliberate discomfort practice seeks rather than avoids uncomfortable pressure sensations, building tolerance through familiarity. Instead of only practicing until comfortable with situation, deliberately practice feeling uncomfortable, anxious, or pressured, recognizing these sensations as normal and manageable, not signs of imminent failure. Exposure therapy principle shows that remaining in anxiety-provoking situation without escaping causes anxiety to naturally decrease through habituation. Practice staying in uncomfortable pressure situations rather than immediately using calming techniques, building confidence that you can function despite discomfort, not just in its absence. The varied exposure prevents narrow adaptation by practicing pressure in diverse contexts, formats, and conditions. If you only practice one type of pressure situation, like specific presentation format, you build tolerance only for that narrow scenario, remaining vulnerable to different pressure types. Vary conditions by practicing with different audiences in different environments at different times with different content and under different constraints, building broad, robust tolerance that transfers across situations. Varied practice creates general pressure tolerance, not just specific situation familiarity. The reflection and learning after exposure extracts lessons and tracks progress. After each pressure exposure, whether practice or real event, analyze what went well, building confidence in capabilities. Identify what could improve focusing development. Notice physical and mental responses, understanding your pressure patterns, and compare to previous exposures, documenting progress. Reflection ensures exposure creates learning and improvement, not just repetition. The graduated autonomy progressively removes support and safety nets, building independence. Early exposures might include extensive support like detailed notes, comprehensive preparation, or friendly audience. Later exposures should progressively remove supports, forcing you to perform more independently under more realistic conditions, preparing you for actual high-stakes situations where extensive supports are unavailable. The frequency consistency maintains regular exposure, preventing tolerance from degrading through disuse. Sporadic infrequent exposure provides insufficient practice for adaptation, while regular consistent exposure builds and maintains tolerance. Schedule pressure practice regularly, like weekly presentations, monthly competitions, or daily high-focus work sessions, making pressure exposure ongoing practice, not occasional event. The peak experience pursuit occasionally pushes beyond current capacity, attempting challenges slightly beyond current ability, creating stretch that drives adaptation. While most practice should be at manageable difficulty, periodic peak challenges that push limits create growth through demands that current capacity cannot quite meet, forcing adaptation to meet challenge. The voluntary control emphasis ensures exposures are deliberately chosen, not randomly encountered. Voluntary chosen exposure to manageable stress builds confidence and tolerance, while unexpected overwhelming pressure can traumatize. Maintain control over exposure difficulty and timing until tolerance develops sufficiently to handle unexpected pressure. The implementation requires building stress inoculation through progressive hierarchical exposure, starting manageable, advancing gradually, creating simulated pressure in practice, replicating high-stakes conditions, deliberately practicing discomfort, building tolerance for uncomfortable sensations, varying exposure contexts, building broad transferable tolerance, reflecting after exposures, extracting lessons and tracking progress, graduating autonomy, removing supports progressively, maintaining frequency consistency through regular practice, pursuing peak experiences occasionally, ensuring voluntary control over exposure progression, and treating stress inoculation as building tolerance through exposure where avoidance prevented adaptation, making systematic exposure essential. Second framework for pressure performance. Build stress inoculation through exposure. Practice under pressure deliberately. Expose progressively or avoid fearfully. You understand now that exposure builds tolerance like vaccine creates immunity, that progressive approach prevents overwhelm while enabling adaptation, that simulated pressure provides safe practice, that varied exposure creates broad tolerance, and that Chapter 2 provides inoculation framework, making pressure tolerance possible where avoidance maintained vulnerability. Chapter 3. Develop POA performance routines creating consistency. Chapter 3 develops POA performance routines creating consistency, calm, and psychological readiness before high-pressure moments. The routine power shows that consistent POA performance rituals reduce anxiety through providing familiar, predictable structure in uncertain high-stakes situations. That routines create psychological readiness by triggering mental and physical systems to enter optimal performance state through conditioning and association. That rituals serve as controllable factors when outcomes are uncertain, enabling focus on process rather than uncontrollable results. That elite performers across domains from athletes to surgeons to performers universally use POA performance routines, demonstrating their effectiveness for pressure management. And understanding that developing personalized POA performance routines through ritual design, consistent practice, and trigger conditioning is essential. Third framework for pressure performance. Because routines create calm, controlled preparation in moments when pressure typically creates chaos, making routine development critical for entering high-stakes situations. In optimal state rather than anxious reactive state. Develop POA performance routines creating consistency. Build rituals triggering readiness. Establish routines or face chaos. The routine development creates personalized sequence of specific activities performed consistently before performances. Effective routines should be individualized based on personal preferences and needs not copied blindly from others. Short enough to be practical and sustainable, typically 5 to 20 minutes. Specific with clear, concrete steps, not vague intentions. Focused on controllable actions within your power, not dependent on external factors. And deliberately designed to create optimal mental and physical state, not random collection of superstitions. Routine might include elements like physical warm-up, preparing body, and releasing tension, breathing exercises, managing arousal, and centering attention. visualization, rehearsing successful performance mentally, reviewing key points or strategies, focusing mind on task, affirmations or self-talk, building confidence, music, creating desired emotional state, or specific physical rituals like stretching routine or equipment check, providing familiar comfort. The ritual practice builds automaticity through consistent repetition, making routine automatic and reliable. Practice routine before every performance opportunity, not just important ones. Use routine before practice sessions, not just competitions, building strong conditioning. Maintain consistency in sequence and timing, creating predictability. And treat routine as non-negotiable commitment, not optional enhancement. Consistent practice creates powerful conditioning, where initiating routine automatically triggers readiness state through association. Initially, routine requires conscious, deliberate execution. Art with repetition becomes automatic, freeing mental resources for performance itself. The trigger conditioning links routine to optimal performance state through classical conditioning principles. By consistently performing routine, then immediately entering performance, creating consistent pairing between ritual and performance state, routine becomes conditioned stimulus that reliably triggers desired response. Over time, simply beginning routine initiates psychological and physiological changes, preparing for performance through conditioned association. This explains why professional athletes often cannot perform optimally when prevented from completing their usual PI game routine, because conditioning has made routine a central trigger for readiness state. The anxiety reduction occurs through multiple mechanisms within routine. Routines reduce uncertainty by providing familiar structure, shift focus from outcome worries to controllable process, occupy mind, preventing rumination and catastrophizing, create sense of control when outcomes are uncertain, activate parasympathetic nervous system through deliberate breathing and physical activities, and provide evidence of preparation, building confidence. Anxiety often peaks when feeling unprepared and out of control, while routine creates opposite experience of systematic preparation and controlled process. The attentional narrowing directs focus toward task-relevant cues through routine elements that emphasize specific aspects of performance. Routine might include reviewing technical cues, visualizing specific scenarios you will face, or practicing specific movements, narrowing attention from broad worries to specific executable actions. Attentional narrowing prevents scattered, unfocused mental state that pressure often creates. The arousal optimization adjusts activation level toward optimal zone through routine design. If typically under-aroused before performance, include energizing elements like upbeat music, vigorous physical activity, or activating self-talk. If typically over-aroused, include calming elements like controlled breathing, progressive relaxation, or centering practices. Match routine elements to arousal management needs, moving you toward optimal activation. The superstition avoidance ensures routine contains meaningful functional elements, not just lucky charms or magical thinking. While psychological comfort from rituals is valuable, avoid becoming dependent on specific arbitrary elements like lucky clothing or exact environmental conditions that may not always be available, creating vulnerability when circumstances prevent superstitious ritual. Focus on functional elements that actually prepare mind and body, not arbitrary lucky objects. The flexibility maintenance allows adapting routine when circumstances require while maintaining core elements. Unexpected situations may prevent full routine completion, so identify essential core elements that must be preserved versus optional elements that can be shortened or skipped. Flexibility prevents routine from becoming rigid requirement that creates anxiety when disrupted. The environmental adaptation adjusts routine to different performance contexts, maintaining consistency while accommodating practical constraints. Routine should be adaptable to different locations, time frames, privacy levels, and available resources, ensuring you can execute meaningful version regardless of circumstances. The implementation requires developing personalized PI performance routine with specific concrete steps, practicing routine consistently before all performances, building automaticity, conditioning routine as trigger for optimal state through consistent pairing, using routine to reduce anxiety through multiple mechanisms, narrowing attention toward task-relevant cues, optimizing arousal level through routine design, avoiding superstitious elements, maintaining functional focus, maintaining flexibility for unexpected circumstances, adapting routine to different environments, and treating PI performance routine as creating consistency and readiness where lack of routine created chaos and reactive anxiety, making routine development essential. Third framework for pressure performance. Develop POE performance routines creating consistency. Build rituals triggering readiness. Establish routines or face chaos. You understand now that routines reduce anxiety through providing structure, that conditioning makes routine trigger optimal state, that practice builds automaticity, that functional elements matter more than superstition, and that Chapter 3 provides routine framework making consistent preparation possible where chaos created anxiety. Chapter 4 Master attentional control maintaining focus. Chapter 4 masters attentional control maintaining focus on task-relevant cues under pressure while ignoring distractions. The focus power shows that attention determines what information is processed and therefore directly controls performance quality because you can only execute what you attend to. That pressure naturally narrows attention, creating tunnel vision that can help by blocking distractions or hurt by missing important peripheral information depending on where attention directs. That untrained attention under pressure typically shifts to threat-related or self-focused thoughts like worrying about failure or monitoring physical anxiety rather than staying on task-relevant execution cues. That elite performers demonstrate superior attentional control, maintaining task focus despite pressure, while novices show scattered reactive attention jumping between irrelevant concerns. And understanding that mastering attentional control through relevant cue focus, distraction resistance, and attention training is essential for framework for pressure performance, because attention is mechanism through which all mental training affects execution, making focus mastery critical for translating preparation into actual performance under stress. Master attentional control maintaining focus. Direct attention strategically. Control focus or scatter attention. The relevant cue focus identifies and maintains attention on specific task-relevant information that directly supports performance execution. Relevant cues are observable, concrete, specific aspects of situation or task that guide effective action, like technical execution points, strategic decisions, environmental conditions, or opponent behaviors depending on performance domain. Irrelevant cues are internal or external stimuli that do not support performance, like self-focused thoughts about how you are feeling or performing, outcome worries about winning or failing, audience reactions or judgments, past mistakes or future scenarios, or physical sensations of anxiety. Before performance, identify 3 to 5 key relevant cues you will focus on, like specific technical elements, strategic priorities, or environmental factors. Then practice directing and maintaining attention on those cues during practice and performance. When noticing attention has drifted to irrelevant concerns, actively redirect back to identified relevant cues. The distraction resistance develops ability to maintain focus despite presence of potential distractions. External distractions include environmental factors like noise, audience presence, opponent tactics, weather conditions, or equipment issues. Internal distractions include thoughts about outcomes or consequences, physical sensations of arousal or fatigue, emotional reactions to situations, and self-evaluative thoughts about performance quality. Build distraction resistance through deliberately practicing with distractions present, like having observers make noise during practice, practicing in varied, unpredictable environments, or intentionally creating internal distractions, then practicing refocusing. Exposure to distractions during practice builds immunity, making them less disruptive during actual performances. The attention width optimization adjusts focus breadth to task demands. Broad attention processes multiple cues simultaneously, useful for situational awareness and open environments. Narrow attention focuses intensely on single cue, useful for precision tasks requiring concentration. Effective performers flexibly adjust attention width, matching task requirements, like maintaining broad awareness during dynamic situations, then narrowing to specific execution during critical moments. Practice varying attention width, deliberately expanding to take in full situation, then narrowing to key execution cues, building flexibility. The internal versus external focus distinction recognizes that attention can direct inward to thoughts, feelings, and self, or outward to environment, task, and execution. Internal self-focused attention under pressure typically impairs performance through creating interference and paralysis by analysis, where thinking about how you are performing disrupts automatic execution. External task-focused attention typically enhances performance through directing resources toward execution rather than evaluation. Practice maintaining external focus on what you are doing, not how you are feeling or whether you are succeeding. The attention training builds control through systematic practice. Mindfulness meditation develops general attentional control through practicing sustained focus on breath or other anchor while noticing and releasing distracting thoughts, building mental muscle for directing attention. Concentration exercises like focusing on single object for extended time or counting breaths without losing track strengthen ability to maintain focus. Dual task training practicing primary task while managing secondary distraction builds capacity to maintain focus despite interference. Regular attention training makes focus more controllable and sustainable. The refocusing skill quickly returns attention to task-relevant cues after noticing drift to distractions. When noticing attention has drifted to worries, physical sensations, or other irrelevant concerns, use brief reset routine like taking breath, repeating focus keyword, or looking at specific point, then immediately redirect to identified task-relevant cue. Quick effective refocusing prevents brief attention lapses from becoming extended mental detours. The POE performance focus plan identifies specific attentional strategy before performance, rather than hoping focus will happen automatically. Plan answers what will I focus on during performance, specifying concrete cues. How will I manage predictable distractions, having strategy ready? And what will I do if attention drifts, having refocus routine prepared? Planning makes focus deliberate, not accidental. The process focus emphasizes attention on execution process and controllable actions rather than outcomes and results. Focusing on outcome like winning or score creates pressure and removes attention from execution that produces desired outcome. Focusing on process like specific technical execution or strategic decisions directs attention toward controllable actions that actually determine outcomes. Practice thinking about what to do, not what might happen. The performance keywords or phrases provide brief reminders that redirect attention efficiently. Simple words like smooth, breathe, target, or tempo can quickly refocus attention on relevant aspect of performance. Develop personal keywords during practice, identifying what phrases help redirect your focus, then use them deliberately during pressure performances. The implementation requires identifying specific task-relevant cues to focus on during performance, developing distraction resistance through deliberate exposure, optimizing attention width matching task demands, maintaining external task focus over internal self-focus, training attention systematically through exercises, developing quick refocusing skills, creating POE performance focus plans, emphasizing process over outcome focus, using performance keywords efficiently, and treating attentional control as determining what information is processed and therefore controlling performance quality where scattered unfocused attention under pressure prevented effective execution, making focus mastery essential. Fourth framework for pressure performance. Master attentional control, maintaining focus. Direct attention strategically. Control focus or scatter attention. You understand now that attention determines performance by controlling what is processed, that relevant cue focus directs to task supporting information, that distraction resistance maintains focus despite interference, that external task focus beats internal self-focus, and that Chapter 4 provides attentional framework making strategic focus possible where scattered attention undermined execution. Chapter 5. Use visualization and mental rehearsal. Chapter 5 uses visualization and mental rehearsal, creating neural preparation for performance through systematic mental practice. The visualization power shows that mental imagery activates similar neural pathways and brain regions as physical practice, making mental rehearsal a legitimate training tool, not just wishful thinking. That visualization builds familiarity with performance situations, reducing anxiety through making scenarios feel practiced and known rather than novel and threatening. That mental practice enables rehearsing perfect execution repeatedly without physical fatigue or resource constraints, allowing unlimited high-quality practice. That imagery can simulate pressure scenarios and challenging situations, preparing mental responses and building confidence for actual encounters. And understanding that systematically using visualization and mental rehearsal through detailed imagery success rehearsal and scenario practice is essential. Fifth framework for pressure performance, because mental training complements physical practice, creating complete preparation, addressing both physical execution and mental readiness, making visualization critical for building confidence, familiarity, and neural preparation. Use visualization and mental rehearsal. Practice mentally thoroughly. Visualize systematically or skip mental training. The detailed imagery creates vivid, realistic mental representations engaging multiple senses and specific details. Effective visualization includes visual imagery, seeing yourself or situation from first-person perspective, experiencing what you would actually see during performance. Kinesthetic imagery, feeling movement, sensations, and physical experiences. Auditory imagery, hearing sounds that would be present. And emotional imagery, experiencing feelings of confidence, focus, and composure. Include specific concrete details like exact environment, sequence of actions, physical sensations, and temporal flow rather than vague general images. More vivid, detailed, and realistic imagery creates stronger neural activation and better transfer to actual performance. Practice visualization in quiet, focused state initially, but progress to visualizing in varied conditions, building robust mental preparation. The success visualization rehearses ideal perfect execution, building confidence and neural pathways for optimal performance. Visualize yourself executing flawlessly with perfect technique, maintaining excellent focus and composure, handling challenges effectively, and achieving desired outcome. Success visualization creates mental blueprint of excellent performance and builds confidence through repeatedly experiencing success mentally even before physical performance. While it seems like wishful thinking, research consistently shows that visualizing success improves actual performance through neural preparation and confidence building. Balance success visualization with challenge rehearsal, avoiding only imagining easy scenarios. The scenario practice mentally rehearses specific situations you expect to encounter, preparing responses and reducing novelty. Identify likely scenarios, including ideal conditions, potential challenges, common difficulties, pressure moments, and various contingencies, then systematically visualize yourself handling each effectively. Scenario practice makes actual situations feel familiar because you have mentally rehearsed them, reducing anxiety from uncertainty. Include both routine situations and edge cases, preparing for full range of possibilities. The challenge visualization rehearses difficult moments and adversity, developing mental preparation for handling obstacles. Visualize potential problems like feeling nervous, making mistakes, facing setbacks, dealing with distractions, or encountering unexpected challenges. Then imagine yourself responding effectively with composure, resilience, and adaptation. Challenge visualization builds confidence that you can handle difficulties, not just ideal conditions. Research shows that visualizing overcoming obstacles improves actual resilience and performance under adversity. The emotional rehearsal practices experiencing desired emotional states during mental imagery. Visualize feeling calm, confident, focused, composed, and in control during performance situations, creating mental familiarity with optimal emotional states. Emotional rehearsal helps condition desired feelings, making them more accessible during actual performance through building association between situation and emotional response. The perspective variation uses both first-person internal perspective, experiencing performance through your own eyes, and third-person external perspective, watching yourself from outside like viewing video. First-person visualization creates stronger kinesthetic and emotional connection, useful for technical execution and emotional preparation. Third-person visualization enables seeing yourself from outside, useful for observing overall performance and maintaining objective perspective. Use both perspectives for complete mental preparation. The timing replication matches mental imagery to actual performance duration and tempo. If actual performance takes 3 minutes, visualization should take approximately 3 minutes, not compressed into 30 seconds or extended to 10 minutes. Matching timing creates more realistic mental practice and better transfer to actual performance through conditioning temporal patterns and sequences. The regular practice schedule maintains consistent mental rehearsal, making visualization habitual preparation tool. Daily visualization, even for 5 to 10 minutes, creates significant benefits through cumulative mental practice. Visualize during training period before competitions, immediately before performances as part of PLE performance routine, and even during off-season, maintaining mental connection and preparation. The outcome and process balance includes both visualizing desired results and executing process. While outcome visualization motivates, excessive outcome focus creates pressure. Include substantial process visualization, focusing on technical execution, strategic decisions, and controllable actions that produce outcomes, maintaining process orientation. The implementation requires creating detailed, vivid imagery, engaging multiple senses, rehearsing success, building confidence and neural pathways, practicing specific scenarios, preparing for likely situations, visualizing challenges, developing resilience, rehearsing desired emotional states, using both first-person and third-person perspectives, matching visualization timing to actual performance duration, maintaining regular practice schedule, balancing outcome and process visualization, and treating mental rehearsal as legitimate training, creating neural preparation and familiarity where lack of visualization left mind unprepared, making systematic imagery essential. Fifth framework for pressure performance. Use visualization and mental rehearsal. Practice mentally thoroughly. Visualize systematically or skip mental training. You understand now that mental imagery activates similar neural pathways as physical practice, that detailed, vivid visualization creates stronger effects, that success rehearsal builds confidence, that scenario practice reduces novelty, and that Chapter 5 provides visualization framework, making mental preparation possible where skipping mental training left readiness incomplete. Chapter 6 Build confidence through preparation. Chapter 6 builds confidence through thorough preparation, creating certainty in capabilities and readiness. The confidence power shows that genuine confidence emerges from evidence of competence and preparation, not positive thinking or affirmations alone, making preparation the foundation of legitimate self-assurance. That thorough readiness reduces anxiety by eliminating uncertainty about whether you are prepared, enabling you to enter pressure situations knowing you have done everything possible. That confidence enables aggressive, optimal performance, while self-doubt creates hesitant, tentative execution that underperforms capabilities. That preparation creates psychological safety, knowing that, even if outcome is unfavorable, you maximize probability of success through excellent preparation, eliminating regret about inadequate effort, and understanding that building confidence through mastery, development, preparation, thoroughness, and evidence accumulation is essential. Sixth framework for pressure performance, because authentic confidence based on real preparation enables peak performance, while false confidence or persistent doubt both impair execution, making preparation-based confidence critical foundation. Build confidence through preparation. Prepare thoroughly, completely. Develop confidence or doubt capability. The mastery development achieves genuine skill competence through deliberate practice over extended time, creating foundation of actual capability. Confidence without underlying competence is delusion that pressure quickly exposes, while competence without confidence is wasted potential that pressure prevents from expressing. Develop mastery through thousands of hours of focused, deliberate practice at edge of ability with feedback, studying and learning from experts and exemplars, obtaining coaching or mentoring, accelerating skill development, and achieving proficiency that makes execution feel automatic and reliable. Mastery creates legitimate confidence because you know through accumulated evidence that you possess necessary capabilities, cannot fake mastery, and cannot feel genuinely confident without it. The preparation thoroughness ensures complete readiness for all anticipated aspects of performance, eliminating uncertainty about whether you are ready. Thorough preparation includes technical preparation, practicing skills and execution until automatic, strategic preparation, planning approaches and decisions, physical preparation ensuring fitness and physical readiness, mental preparation using visualization and mental rehearsal, logistical preparation handling practical details and logistics, and contingency preparation planning for potential problems or challenges. Systematic preparation through checklist ensures nothing is overlooked. Thoroughness eliminates nagging worry about what you might have forgotten to prepare, creating psychological certainty that you are as ready as possible. The evidence accumulation builds confidence through collecting concrete proof of capability. Evidence includes successful performances in practice demonstrating you can execute well, progressive improvement showing upward trajectory, successful handling of similar past pressure showing you have performed under stress before, and positive feedback from coaches or experts validating competence. Keep log or record of evidence to review before pressure performances, reminding yourself of accumulated proof of capability. Evidence-based confidence is resilient because it rests on facts, not just feelings. The over-preparation strategy prepares beyond what is minimally required, creating buffer and margin of safety. If presentation is 10 minutes, prepare 15 minutes of material. If competition requires certain fitness level, train beyond that standard. Over-preparation creates confidence cushion, knowing you are more than ready, not just barely adequate. This margin reduces anxiety about unexpected challenges because you have capacity beyond minimum requirements. The simulation testing validates readiness through practicing under realistic conditions. Simulation might include practicing full performance under time pressure, performing for audience or evaluators, recording and reviewing performances, or creating challenging practice conditions exceeding actual performance difficulty. Successful simulation performance provides powerful evidence of readiness. If simulation reveals weaknesses, you have opportunity to address them before actual performance. The POE performance review consolidates preparation immediately before performance through systematic review of key elements. Review might include mental walkthrough of performance sequence, reviewing key strategic points or technical cues, checking of preparation checklist confirming readiness, or brief physical rehearsal of critical elements. Review reinforces preparation and provides final confidence boost through confirming readiness. The past success recall activates confidence through remembering previous successes and strong performances. Before pressure situations, deliberately recall specific past performances where you succeeded under pressure, handled challenges well, or demonstrated capability. Past success provides evidence that you can perform under pressure, creating confidence through proof you have done it before. The competence affirmation uses evidence-based self-talk reinforcing confidence. Instead of generic positive thinking, use specific affirmations grounded in actual preparation, like "I have practiced this thousands of times," "I have successfully handled pressure before," or "I am thoroughly prepared and ready." Evidence-based affirmations are more effective than unsupported positive statements because they connect to real preparation and capability. The uncertainty acceptance recognizes that some uncertainty is inevitable and prepares as well as possible while accepting cannot control everything. Perfectionism seeking absolute certainty creates paralysis. Accept that you can be well prepared while some uncertainty remains, focusing on what you can control through preparation rather than fixating on uncontrollable factors. The implementation requires developing genuine mastery through extensive deliberate practice, preparing thoroughly across all performance aspects, accumulating concrete evidence of capability, over-preparing beyond minimum requirements, testing readiness through realistic simulation, reviewing preparation immediately before performance, recalling past successes, activating proven capability, using evidence-based affirmations, accepting inevitable uncertainty while maximizing preparation, and treating confidence as emerging from thorough preparation and proven competence, where inadequate preparation created self-doubt and hesitation, making preparation essential. 6. Framework for pressure performance. Build confidence through preparation. Prepare thoroughly, completely. Develop confidence or doubt capability. You understand now that genuine confidence emerges from evidence of competence and preparation, that thoroughness eliminates uncertainty, that evidence accumulation provides proof, that over-preparation creates margin, and that Chapter 6 provides confidence framework, making self-assurance possible where inadequate preparation created doubt. Chapter 7. Develop emotional regulation under stress. Chapter 7 develops emotional regulation under stress, managing anxiety and maintaining composure during pressure situations. The regulation power shows that emotional control enables clear thinking, rational decision-making, and smooth execution, while emotional flooding impairs cognitive function, disrupts motor control, and triggers fight or flight responses that undermine performance. That anxiety is normal adaptive response to pressure situations, but becomes problematic when intensity exceeds optimal level, creating interference rather than activation. That regulation techniques can reduce excessive anxiety, increase insufficient arousal, and maintain emotional stability, creating optimal state for performance. That emotional regulation is learnable skill that improves with practice, not fixed trait, making anyone capable of developing better control, and understanding that developing emotional regulation through anxiety reduction, arousal optimization, and composure maintenance is essential. 7th framework for pressure performance, because emotions directly affect physiological and cognitive systems, determining whether pressure enhances or impairs execution, making regulation critical for maintaining optimal state under stress. Develop emotional regulation under stress. Manage anxiety, maintain composure. Regulate emotions or flood reactively. The anxiety reduction uses evidence-based techniques to decrease excessive worry and nervous arousal. Controlled breathing is most immediate anxiety reducer through activating parasympathetic nervous system that calms body, using techniques like diaphragmatic breathing, breathing deeply into belly not chest. Extended exhale breathing, making exhale longer than inhale, triggering relaxation response. Box breathing using equal counts for inhale, hold, exhale, hold, creating rhythm and calm. Or 4-7-8 breathing, inhaling 4 counts, holding 7, exhaling 8. Progressive muscle relaxation reduces physical tension through systematically tensing then releasing muscle groups throughout body, noticing difference between tension and relaxation. Grounding techniques anchor attention in present moment through focusing on physical sensations like feet on ground or objects you can see, hear, or touch, preventing anxious future-focused thoughts. Regular practice of these techniques during calm times makes them accessible and effective during pressure moments. The arousal optimization adjusts activation level toward optimal zone through matching intervention to current state. When over-aroused with excessive anxiety, use calming techniques like controlled breathing, progressive relaxation, calming self-talk, or visualization of peaceful scenes, reducing activation. When under-aroused with insufficient energy, use energizing techniques like stimulating music, physical movement, energizing self-talk, or visualization of exciting scenarios, increasing activation. Self-monitoring of arousal level enables real-time adjustment using appropriate regulation strategy, moving toward optimal middle zone. The composure maintenance stays calm and centered regardless of external chaos or internal emotional weather through cultivating emotional stability. Composure techniques include maintaining steady breathing rhythm regardless of circumstances, providing physiological anchor, using centering routine like deep breath or specific gesture that returns you to calm state, maintaining neutral or confident facial expression and body language that affects internal emotional state through feedback loop, and practicing emotional detachment from outcomes, focusing on process and effort over which you have control rather than results which are partly beyond control. Composure is not absence of emotion, but ability to experience feelings without being controlled by them. The cognitive reappraisal reinterprets situation in ways that reduce anxiety through changing meaning rather than changing external circumstances. Reframe pressure as challenge opportunity to demonstrate skills rather than threat danger to well-being. Reframe anxiety as excitement, telling yourself body is preparing for performance, channeling arousal positively rather than viewing it as problem. Reframe mistakes as learning opportunities rather than catastrophic failures. Cognitive reappraisal changes emotional response through changing interpretation, making same situation feel different based on how you frame it. The acceptance practice allows anxiety to exist without fighting or suppressing it, paradoxically reducing intensity through removing resistance. Fighting anxiety creates secondary anxiety about being anxious, amplifying distress. Acceptance means acknowledging I feel anxious right now, and that is normal and okay, rather than demanding anxiety disappear immediately. Acceptance creates psychological flexibility, enabling performance despite discomfort, rather than requiring perfect emotional state. The self-compassion response treats yourself kindly during difficulty, rather than harsh self-criticism that intensifies anxiety. When feeling nervous or making mistakes, respond as compassionate supportive coach would rather than harsh critical judge. Self-compassion reduces shame and fear of failure, creating psychological safety that actually improves performance. The emotional awareness develops ability to recognize and label emotions, increasing regulation through consciousness. Notice and name specific emotions like feeling nervous, excited, or frustrated rather than vague awareness of distress. Research shows that labeling emotions reduces amygdala activation and increases prefrontal control, improving regulation through awareness. The POA performance calming builds calm foundation before performance through deliberate regulation ritual. Routine might include controlled breathing exercises, brief progressive relaxation, or calming visualization, creating optimal emotional state before entering high-pressure situation, rather than trying to regulate only after arousal has escalated. The implementation requires reducing anxiety through controlled breathing, progressive relaxation, and grounding, optimizing arousal toward ideal zone through matching techniques to current state, maintaining composure through breathing, body language, and attachment, reappraising situations through changing interpretations, accepting anxiety without resistance, responding to difficulty with self-compassion, developing emotional awareness through recognition and labeling, using POA performance, calming rituals, and treating emotional regulation as managing feelings to maintain optimal state, enabling clear thinking and smooth execution, where emotional flooding created cognitive impairment and disrupted performance, making regulation essential. 7th framework for pressure performance. Develop emotional regulation under stress. Manage anxiety, maintain composure. Regulate emotions or flood reactively. You understand now that emotional control enables clear thinking while flooding impairs function. That controlled breathing is most immediate anxiety reducer. That arousal optimization adjusts toward ideal zone. That reappraisal changes feelings through interpretation. And that Chapter 7 provides regulation framework making emotional management possible where reactivity created impairment. Chapter 8. Create performance cues and triggers. Chapter 8 creates performance cues and triggers anchoring optimal states and initiating peak performance on demand. The cue power shows that conditioned triggers can reliably activate desired mental, physical, and emotional states through classical conditioning, when neutral stimulus repeatedly paired with specific state eventually gains power to evoke that state independently. That performance cues provide control over state activation, enabling deliberate entry into optimal performance mode, rather than hoping right state happens accidentally. That triggers work through automatic conditioning bypassing need for conscious, effortful state management, making performance state accessible, even under pressure when cognitive resources are limited. That elite performers universally use performance cues and rituals to initiate readiness states, demonstrating practical effectiveness of anchoring techniques, and understanding that creating performance cues through state anchoring trigger practice and cue activation is essential eighth framework for pressure performance because triggers enable reliable access to optimal states on demand, making anchoring critical for consistent state management under varied conditions and stress levels. Create performance cues and triggers. Anchor optimal states reliably. Build triggers or access inconsistently. The state anchoring links specific cue stimulus to desired performance state through consistent pairing, creating conditioned association. Anchoring process involves first generating desired state like confidence, focus, or calm through whatever methods work like visualization, successful memory, or physical activity. Peak the state, bringing it to maximum intensity. Apply the anchor introducing specific cue or state is peak like physical gesture, word or phrase, image, or breath pattern, and repeat the pairing multiple times across sessions, strengthening association between cue and state. Through repetition, cue becomes conditioned trigger that automatically activates associated state. Choose cue that is unique, specific, controllable, reliable, and socially acceptable, making it usable across situations. The trigger practice builds reliability through repeated conditioning, strengthening cue state association. Practice anchoring during training, not just before performances, generating state, applying cue repeatedly. Use anchor before practice sessions, making it part of regular routine. Test anchor effectiveness, periodically checking whether cue reliably activates state, and refresh anchors that weaken through occasional reconditioning. Consistent practice makes triggers automatic and powerful, requiring minimal conscious effort to activate. The multiple anchor creation develops different cues for different states, building toolkit of triggers. Might create activation anchor that triggers energized alert state for vigorous performance. Calming anchor that triggers relaxed composed state for pressure management. Focus anchor that triggers concentrated attentive state for complex tasks. Or confidence anchor that triggers self-assured state for challenging situations. Multiple anchors enable strategic state management, matching state to demands. The cue stacking combines multiple elements, creating powerful multimodal trigger. Single modality cue like word might be weaker than combined cue using word plus physical gesture plus image, creating reinforcing multi-sensory trigger. Cue stacking builds redundancy, making trigger more robust and reliable. The contextual triggers link performance states to environmental features that naturally occur in performance situations. Might anchor confidence to seeing competition venue, focus to hearing starting signal, or calm to sitting in preparation area, creating automatic state transitions as you encounter familiar environmental cues during actual performances. Contextual triggers leverage natural situational cues rather than requiring you to remember to use artificial cue. The physical anchors use body-based cues that are always available and discrete. Physical triggers might include specific gesture like touching thumb and finger together, particular posture or stance, controlled breathing pattern, or touch to specific body location like shoulder or wrist. Physical anchors work well because you can use them anytime, anywhere without drawing attention or requiring external props. The verbal anchors use words or short phrases as triggers. Might be single power word like focus or explosive, short phrase like smooth and strong or let it flow, or personal mantra with meaning for you. Verbal anchors work through self-talk, creating instant cognitive priming. Can say verbally or internally, making them flexible and portable. The visual anchors use images or visual cues as triggers. Might visualize specific image that represents optimal state like picture of successful performance, Imagine symbol or color associated with desired state, or look at physical object that reminds you of confidence or success. Visual anchors leverage power of imagery. The ritual integration incorporates anchors into PI performance routine, making trigger activation automatic part of preparation. Rather than remembering to use anchor, build it into consistent routine so it happens automatically as part of established sequence. The emergency application uses anchors specifically during pressure moments when feel state shifting negatively. When noticing anxiety rising or focus scattering, deploy appropriate anchor immediately, bringing yourself back to optimal state before deterioration progresses. The implementation requires anchoring optimal states through peak pairing with specific cues. Practicing triggers repeatedly, building conditioning strength, creating multiple anchors for different states, stacking cues using multimodal elements, leveraging contextual environmental triggers, using physical body-based anchors, employing verbal word-based triggers, utilizing visual image-based cues, integrating anchors into PI performance routines, applying emergency triggers during pressure moments, and treating performance cues as condition triggers, enabling reliable state activation on demand where lack of anchors left optimal states inaccessible or inconsistent, making trigger creation essential. 8th framework for pressure performance. Create performance cues and triggers. Anchor optimal states reliably. Build triggers or axes inconsistently. You understand now that condition triggers activate states through association, that repeated pairing strengthens conditioning, that multiple anchors provide state toolkit, that physical, verbal, and visual cues offer options, and that Chapter 8 provides anchoring framework, making reliable state access possible where inconsistent states limited performance. Chapter 9. Learn from pressure experiences. Chapter 9 learns from pressure experiences, extracting lessons and continuously improving through systematic reflection. The learning power shows that experience alone does not create expertise because unreflective repetition creates only familiarity, not improvement. That deliberate reflection and analysis after performances transforms experience into learning through identifying what worked, what did not, and what to change. That pressure experiences provide invaluable feedback about mental preparation effectiveness, revealing which techniques work under stress and which fail when tested. That continuous improvement requires closing feedback loop through implementing lessons learned from previous performances in preparation for subsequent ones, creating upward spiral. And understanding that learning from pressure experiences through post-performance review, lesson extraction, and improvement integration is essential. 9th framework for pressure performance. Because experience without reflection is wasted learning opportunity, while systematic analysis transforms every performance into developmental opportunity, making reflection critical for continuous growth rather than repeating same patterns indefinitely regardless of outcomes. Learn from pressure experiences systematically. Review, extract, improve, learn continuously, or repeat mistakes. The post-performance review analyzes performances systematically soon after completion while memory is fresh. Effective review includes performance evaluation, assessing what went well and what could improve. Mental state analysis, examining focus, emotional regulation, and arousal management. Technique assessment, reviewing technical execution. Strategy evaluation, analyzing decisions and approaches. And outcome perspective, comparing results to goals and expectations. Review both successful and unsuccessful performances because both contain learning opportunities, with successes revealing what to repeat and failures revealing what to change. Conduct review within 24 hours while details are accessible, but after immediate emotional reactions have subsided, enabling more objective analysis. The lesson extraction identifies specific actionable insights from performance experience rather than vague general reactions. Poor lesson extraction produces unhelpful conclusions like "I need to do better" or "I choked under pressure" that provide no guidance for improvement. Effective lesson extraction produces specific insights like "I lost focus on technical cues when anxiety increased," suggesting "I need more attention training," or "My POA performance routine was rushed, causing me to start anxious," suggesting "I need to protect routine time." Extract lessons by asking specific questions like "What specific moment did performance quality change?" and "What was happening mentally at that moment?" "What technique or strategy worked particularly well and why?" "What would I do differently if I could repeat this performance?" And "What specific skill or mental technique needs development based on this experience?" The pattern recognition across multiple performances identifies consistent themes and recurring issues rather than treating each performance as isolated event. Keep performance log tracking multiple experiences over time, then periodically review looking for patterns like consistently strong starts but fading finish suggesting endurance or focus sustainability issue. Performing better in practice than competition suggesting pressure management gap, or executing well until making mistake then mental collapse suggesting resilience needs development. Patterns reveal systematic issues requiring targeted intervention, while isolated incidents might be random variations. The improvement integration implements lessons by modifying preparation, training, or approach based on extracted insights. Learning without implementation is worthless intellectual exercise. After identifying lesson, create specific action plan. Like if lesson is that anxiety increased when crowd noise distracted me. Action plan might include practicing with background noise playing, developing better attentional control through focus training, or creating refocusing routine when distraction occurs. Integration closes loop, transforming insight into actual behavior change. The success analysis examines strong performances, identifying what enabled excellence to replicate those conditions. Do not only analyze failures. Strong performances reveal your optimal preparation and execution, providing blueprint for future success. Analyze what mental state you were in, what preparation led to that readiness, what techniques you used effectively, and what you can do to recreate those conditions. The mistake normalization treats errors as learning feedback, not catastrophic failures. Mistake analysis asks, what can I learn from this error? What does this reveal about what I need to practice? And how can I respond differently next time? Normalizing mistakes reduces fear of failure that often causes choking under pressure by reframing errors as expected part of learning process. The experimentation mindset treats performances as tests of preparation and techniques rather than final judgments of ability. Experimental approach means trying different mental strategies, testing various preparation approaches, and varying techniques to discover what works best for you personally. Experimentation requires accepting that some approaches will fail, providing information about what does not work, which is valuable learning. The coach or mentor consultation seeks external perspective on performances because self-analysis has limitations and blind spots. Coach can observe aspects you cannot see, provide objective assessment less influenced by emotions, draw on broader experience identifying patterns you might miss, and suggest specific interventions based on expertise. Regular consultation with knowledgeable observer enhances learning from experience. The documentation practice keeps written performance log, recording experiences, lessons learned, and improvement plans. Written documentation creates permanent record, preventing lessons from being forgotten, enables pattern recognition across time, tracks improvement trajectory showing growth, and provides accountability for implementing changes. Simple performance journal noting date, event, performance quality, mental state, lessons, and action plans sufficient. The implementation requires conducting systematic post-performance review soon after completion, extracting specific actionable lessons rather than vague reactions, recognizing patterns across multiple performances, integrating lessons through implementing specific changes in preparation or approach, analyzing successes, identifying what enabled excellence, normalizing mistakes as learning feedback, adopting experimentation mindset, testing approaches, consulting coaches or mentors for external perspective, documenting experiences in written performance log, and treating pressure experiences as learning opportunities through systematic reflection and implementation, where unreflective repetition wasted developmental potential, making learning essential. Ninth framework for pressure performance. Learn from pressure experiences systematically. Review, extract, improve, learn continuously, or repeat mistakes. You understand now that experience without reflection does not create expertise, that specific lesson extraction provides actionable insights, that pattern recognition reveals systematic issues, that implementation closes learning loop, and that Chapter 9 provides learning framework, making continuous improvement possible where unreflective repetition perpetuated patterns. Chapter 10. Integrate all elements into comprehensive pressure performance system. Chapter 10 integrates all 9 frameworks into comprehensive pressure performance system, creating unshakable mental strength and consistent peak execution. The integration principle shows that individual frameworks practiced in isolation create partial improvements, while comprehensive integration creates complete pressure mastery, enabling consistent excellence when stakes are highest. That pressure performance requires simultaneous excellence across multiple dimensions, including arousal management, stress tolerance, preparation, attention, emotion regulation, mental rehearsal, confidence, state control, and continuous learning, that each framework enhances effectiveness of others through synergistic mechanisms, creating multiplication, not mere addition of benefits, that most people develop one or two elements while neglecting others, creating incomplete pressure performance with vulnerabilities that stress exposes, and understanding that integrating all 9 frameworks into systematic training, creating cohesive mental performance architecture, is essential 10th and final framework for pressure mastery, because only complete integration creates the comprehensive mental strength, making you genuinely uncheckable when pressure is highest, making integration critical culmination, enabling thriving, not just surviving under stress. Integrate all elements into comprehensive pressure performance system. Combine synergistically. Build complete mastery or remain partially trained. The performance architecture maps how all 9 frameworks combine, creating coherent integrated pressure mastery. Understanding pressure psychology from Framework 1 provides knowledge foundation, enabling intelligent application of other techniques. Stress inoculation from Framework 2 builds tolerance, making pressure situations feel manageable rather than overwhelming. POE performance routines from Framework 3 create consistency and calm before high-stakes moments. Attentional control from Framework 4 maintains task focus despite pressure. Visualization from Framework 5 creates mental preparation and familiarity. Confidence from Framework 6 enables aggressive, optimal performance. Emotional regulation from Framework 7 manages arousal and maintains composure. Performance cues from Framework 8 provide reliable state activation. Learning from experience in Framework 9 enables continuous improvement. Each framework supports, enables, and enhances others, creating integrated system far more powerful than individual techniques, creating genuine comprehensive pressure performance capability. The synergistic multiplication recognizes how frameworks amplify each other's effectiveness. Stress inoculation builds tolerance, making situations feel less threatening, which reduces arousal, making regulation easier. POE performance routines trigger optimal states anchored through performance cues. Visualization builds confidence by creating mental evidence of capability. Attentional control enables focusing on technique during visualization, making mental practice more effective. Confidence reduces anxiety, requiring less regulation. Learning from experience identifies which techniques work best for you personally, enabling optimization. Consciously leverage synergies by applying multiple frameworks together, recognizing combinations create effects individual elements cannot achieve alone. The periodized training develops capabilities systematically through phases. Foundation phase focuses first 3 frameworks, building psychological understanding, stress tolerance, and routine consistency. Performance phase adds middle 3 frameworks, developing attention, visualization, and confidence. Integration phase incorporates final frameworks, adding cues and systematic learning. Complete development typically requires 6 to 12 months of consistent training, creating genuine comprehensive pressure performance capability. The personalized adaptation recognizes optimal approach varies individually, requiring customization based on personality, strengths, weaknesses, and context. Naturally anxious individuals might emphasize arousal reduction and regulation techniques. Naturally underreactive individuals might emphasize activation and intensity building. Technical performers might emphasize attentional control, while creative performers might emphasize emotional freedom. Customize framework emphasis while maintaining baseline competence across all elements. The progressive challenge matches training difficulty to developing capability, preventing both boredom from insufficient challenge and overwhelm from excessive difficulty. Begin with manageable pressure situations, building confidence and technique, then progressively advance to higher stakes, more difficult scenarios as capability develops. Progressive challenge ensures continuous growth operating in development zone. The consistent practice schedule maintains regular systematic training across all frameworks. Schedule weekly stress exposure, daily visualization practice, regular routine rehearsal, periodic attention training, continuous preparation efforts, and systematic post-performance reflection. Consistent practice transforms techniques from deliberate conscious efforts into automatic habitual responses accessible under pressure. The performance environment simulation practices in conditions closely matching actual performance, creating realistic preparation. If actual performances occur in front of large audiences, practice with observers. If actual performances are timed, practice under time pressure. Simulation identifies gaps between practice and performance conditions, enabling targeted preparation. The support system development builds network of coaches, mentors, training partners, and resources supporting development. Pressure performance training is challenging, requiring support, accountability, feedback, and encouragement. Build deliberate support system rather than trying to develop alone. The long-term commitment recognizes pressure performance mastery requires sustained effort over months and years, not quick fixes. Accept that genuine mastery emerges through accumulated training and experience, committing to ongoing development as permanent practice, not temporary project. The implementation requires designing comprehensive pressure performance architecture, integrating all 9 frameworks synergistically, recognizing and leveraging multiplying synergies between elements, developing systematically through periodized phase training, adapting personalization based on individual characteristics, matching progressive challenge to capability, maintaining consistent practice schedule, simulating performance environments, building support system, committing to long-term development, and treating integration as creating complete pressure performance mastery, enabling consistent peak execution when stakes are highest, where partial framework adoption created incomplete capability with vulnerabilities, making comprehensive integration essential. 10th framework for thriving under pressure. You have learned 10 frameworks for training your mind to perform under pressure. Framework 1: Understanding pressure psychology and arousal. Framework 2: Building stress inoculation through exposure. Framework 3: Developing POA performance routines, creating consistency. Framework 4: Mastering attentional control, maintaining focus. Framework 5: Using visualization and mental rehearsal. Framework 6: Building confidence through preparation. Framework 7: Developing emotional regulation under stress. Framework 8: Creating performance cues and triggers. Framework 9: Learning from pressure experiences. Framework 10: Integrating into comprehensive system. What matters now is applying one framework today. 5 immediate priorities. Identify your optimal arousal zone for peak performance. Expose yourself to one simulated pressure situation, building tolerance. Develop one simple POA performance routine to practice consistently. Practice one focused attention exercise, maintaining task-relevant cues. Visualize one upcoming pressure situation, rehearsing successful execution. Start immediately. Train systematically. Perform under pressure. Stop choking under pressure and start performing at your peak when it matters most, delivering your best when stakes are highest. Stop mental collapse and start mental strength through systematic pressure training. Train frameworks deliberately, integrate comprehensively, and perform under pressure through unwavering commitment, starting right now today.